Well, it finally happened, folks. The one and only Ozzy Osbourne, the Prince of Darkness, the godfather of heavy metal, twice inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame as a solo artist and as a member of Black Sabbath. After more than 55 years of making music, of being a pioneer and icon of heavy metal music, of being one of the biggest rock stars and celebrities on the planet, is finally, truly, and very likely for realsies this time, calling it quits. He's retiring. Now, it is worth noting that under normal circumstances, there would be valid reason to assume that Ozzy is not retiring. Because, first off, he's retired multiple times in the past. And, well, I think you can see how that went. Also, second, because in this modern day and age, nothing sells quite like nostalgia. And simultaneous to that, you know, all of these older metal rock bands and musicians simply refuse to retire, and many of them come out of retirement to make a quick buck. You know, Motley Crue, Pantera, fucking Acid Bath for God's sakes. Even the fucking OG Alice Cooper lineup has reunited for one more album. Who the fuck asked for that? I've no earthly fucking clue. There's valid reason, under normal circumstances, to assume that Ozzy's bluffing, that he would be back in a couple of years or so. But let's look at the facts. Ozzy Osbourne is 76 years old. He has Parkinson's. He's in horrible physical condition. He's a recovering addict. And if we're being really honest with ourselves here, his voice has completely deteriorated. And it's been deteriorating pretty rapidly ever since the mid to late 90s. Ozzy's done. A lot of you don't want to hear this. A lot of you won't hear this. Because, as far as you're concerned, Ozzy should tour forever and make music forever until literally the second he dies. I'm not into that. I think that Ozzy deserves to spend what are statistically the final years of his life with his friends, with his wife, with his children, with his grandchildren, with his family. He deserves to be with them, relaxing on a beach somewhere, or perhaps in a lodge in the mountains in Montana or Alaska or wherever else have you. He deserves to be relaxing. He deserves to be at peace. I would rather him do that than spend what are once again statistically his final years in a studio or on a tour bus headed to Scranton, Pennsylvania, and then the next night Indianapolis, and then the next night St. Louis, and so on and so forth. And look, man, I get why this might be a tough pill for some of y'all to swallow, because especially if you're an older metalhead who was listening to Black Sabbath and Ozzy Osbourne in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, you know, Ozzy Osbourne has been a big part not just of this music that you listen to, but also your life. And like also, even if you don't personally listen to a lot of Black Sabbath or Ozzy Osbourne, what they did paved the way for literally everything else. Everything metal does not exist without Black Sabbath and Ozzy Osbourne. It is just that simple. Iron Maiden, Metallica, Judas Priest, Motorhead, Slayer, Megadeth, Motley Crue, Pantera, thrash metal, death metal, black metal, doom metal, sludge metal, heavy metal, fashion, and culture. This YouTube channel, none of it exists without heavy metal, and heavy metal does not exist without Black Sabbath and Ozzy Osbourne. I understand that makes this very difficult. But that doesn't change the fact that you have to accept that Ozzy is retiring. And whether you're willing to admit it right now or not, this is ultimately for the best. Now, I promise you, we're not going to spend the entirety of this video relitigating my already well-documented thoughts and feelings on Ozzy needing to, but refusing to, retire. There is nothing to be gained from having that conversation aside from gathering ammunition for a potential angry fanboy drinking game. Instead, what I want to do today is just talk about Ozzy. What makes him so special? What makes him so important? Not just to heavy metal music and culture and to the community, but also to me personally. Because contrary to popular belief, what my videos and opinions would maybe have you assume, I do love Ozzy Osbourne and have great respect for Ozzy Osbourne. And I imagine so too does a vast majority of the metal community, because once again, without him, without Black Sabbath, this doesn't exist. Literally. Straight the fuck up. So I'd like you to raise your glass right now, if you have one. If you don't, go get one. Cheers. And let's talk about Ozzy Osbourne. The man, the myth, the legend. And let's say thank you. Thank you, Ozzy, for everything that you have done for heavy metal, the music, the community, and the culture. Anna, say thank you.
Thank you.
Make it louder.
Thank you.
Say it like you mean it.
Thank you.
There we go. I came to know Ozzy Osbourne as a kid through my dad. Papa Meltdown, if you'd like to call him. Also, hi, Dad, if you're watching. He unironically watches and tunes into the Metal Meltdown, so sup. He listened primarily to classic rock and traditional heavy metal from the 70s and early 80s because that's what he grew up listening to. So anytime we had a party, a barbecue, or went on some kind of road trip, that was a lot of what I was kind of like taking in, you know, like Deep Purple, Aerosmith, the Rolling Stones, the Clash, the Sex Pistols. He also loved a lot of like 70s English punk. And, you know, eventually Ozzy Osbourne and Black Sabbath. Like, he's frequently told me the story of buying Master of Reality on vinyl when it came out and, like, jamming that in, like, his friend's garage. Like, stacking up all these speakers and amps to just make the album as big and as loud as possible. I think I remember having, like, an Ozzy Osbourne Greatest Hits album, like, the Essential Ozzy Osbourne or something like that. And it had all, like, the big hits, you know? Crazy Train, Goodbye to Romance, Mr. Crowley, No More Tears, you know, the big hits. And, like, live versions of some Black Sabbath cuts. Like, I think there was a live version of Paranoid that was on the album, a live version of Iron Man that was on the album. And I remember in 2007, Ozzy released the album Black Rain, which I still have a really soft spot for, in all honesty. I would have been maybe 12, 13 years old when that album came out. I loved the sound and tone of the guitars on that record. As I've grown up and grown older and matured, I've come to appreciate some of the more heartfelt kind of lyricism on cuts like Lay Your World on Me. Like, I think there's a real tenderness and sweetness to that song that I think holds up pretty well. And I mean, I Don't Want to Stop is just a certified fucking banger. Like, that is just a full-blown, gnarly-ass fucking goddamn banger. Anybody arguing otherwise hates fun, they don't like to party, they don't like to drink, they're lame, they're stupid. And I remember, I think it was the previous year for Christmas, like 2006, I think. It was Christmas, that much I remember. And, Santa gave my dad tickets to go see Ozzy Osbourne and Rob Zombie and In This Moment at the Air Canada Centre. And of course, he took me because hell yeah, that's why. Because my dad's cool as shit, that's why. And seeing Rob Zombie and In This Moment, even though I probably wouldn't consider them especially heavy nowadays, you know, for like a 12-year-old, 13-year-old kid, you know, that was some pretty mind-blowing stuff. Like, that was the first time I heard anything that really sounded like that. This, like, really heavy, sleazy, dirty, gritty, kind of, like, industrial, alternative metal. And, like, you know, you have Maria Brink kind of dressed up like, I don't know, like, I remember she had this weird, like Dorothy from The Wizard of Oz. Like, a kind of get-up like that, and, like, the makeup and shit. And she was screaming a lot, and that was the first time I'd ever heard or seen something like that. And then Rob Zombie comes out, and there's like all these weird, grotesque cartoon visuals on these Jumbotron TV screens, and he just looked like an actual zombie. Like, I genuinely thought he was called Rob Zombie because he was a zombie, because he looked like a fucking zombie. And it was the most high-energy, high-octane rock show. It was the first real rock show I'd seen at that point in my life, but still to this day, all these years later, I don't really think I've seen a lot of other big rock shows that have matched the energy of that particular Ozzy Osbourne show. Hell, Ozzy himself hasn't really delivered since then the way he did that night. It was absolutely wild and eye-opening as a kid. I'm pretty sure that was the first time I saw boobs, too. Like, honest to God, I'm being real as fuck. Because there was a point where Zakk Wylde just plays guitar, and I guess every woman in the stadium was just like, this is the part where I lift my shirt, I guess. I don't know. I'm like, look, what do you want me to say, man? I was a 12-year-old, 13-year-old boy. Like, that shit was mind-blowing as a kid. And from that point on, Ozzy was a regular part of my life. Like, the next couple times that Ozzy Osbourne came to town, my dad and I were there. Like, we were there during the Scream tour when he released the Scream album in 2010 with Rob Halford as an opener, too. That was cool as hell. I remember when he came out, I was like, holy fucking shit, it's Rob Halford from Judas fucking Priest. And I remember Black Sabbath toured in 2013 because they put out that album 13. We saw them on that tour, too, with Andrew W.K. as the opener. That was a little underwhelming because he just did like a DJ set. And I was like, man, I wanted to hear Party Hard. What are we fucking doing here? By this point, though, I was starting to notice that Ozzy's voice was starting to crumble. I was starting to notice that, he isn't as high energy as, as I remember him being. And this was really solidified when I saw Ozzy. It would have been 2018 the last time I saw him. It was one of his final tours. And Stone Sour was opening for him. And I'm not a huge Stone Sour fan. Nothing against Corey Taylor. I just prefer Slipknot over Stone Sour for obvious they don't suck related reasons. But Stone Sour undeniably put on a way better, way bigger, way more high octane enthusiastic show. Like, I felt like Ozzy was just kind of like sleepwalking through the whole thing. Like, it felt more like an obligation rather than something he genuinely wanted to do that night. I mean, I still had fun because I was with my dad and we're drinking and eating junk food and having fun. Father-son bonding time. But I'd be lying if I said that that was Ozzy's best performance that I had seen out of him. I also always knew of Ozzy Osbourne because of the reality TV show, The Osbournes. I mean, I didn't watch it when it was on. I was a little bit too young to have watched it when it was at its most popular. But my dad would, like, torrent and download episodes and entire seasons, and he'd have them, like, installed on this little fucking box fucking thing, and we'd watch it everywhere. Like, we'd go camping, and late at night, after, like, a campfire, making s'mores and shit and singing songs, we'd fucking watch a couple episodes of The Osbournes. I mean, hell, a couple months ago, Anna and I noticed that The Osbournes was on Amazon Prime or some shit like that, so we ended up getting into a habit of, like, just watching The Osbournes. And I love, there's something just so raw and chaotic about that show that has aged so fucking perfectly. Like, it's just the Osbournes being fucking weird as all holy fucking hell. And I mean, it's funny as hell. It probably shouldn't be, because I mean, this is where it's becoming, like, visibly obvious that Ozzy's, mentally deteriorating, and years and years of drug abuse are starting to catch up, and the Parkinson's symptoms are starting to pop up as well. So it shouldn't be funny, but I'm not gonna lie, it's funny as all holy fucking hell. Like, just there's literally just a scene where Ozzy just, like, stumbles away like a cartoon character, sits in a chair, and falls down, and something about that just cracked me and Anna the fuck up. Anna, what was your favorite moment from The Osbournes, rewatching The Osbournes?
When he's just sitting on a fucking chair and he falls over.
Yeah, I was just saying, that's a fucking great moment. I also love, someone came into my room and drank all of my beer. Now who would do that, Ozzy? You're the beer thief. And he just stands there like a Morrowind fucking NPC, just like, God, you know what's aged really fucking poorly? The one episode where Kelly goes to a party
and
P. Diddy is there.
Yeah.
He gives her a watch, and Sharon's like, I think P. Diddy is a handsome, nice man. I think Kelly should date P. Diddy. And I'm just like, no! Don't! No! Ew, no! This kind of solidified Ozzy Osbourne as being just as much as like a pop culture reality TV show kind of icon and star, as much as a heavy metal musician too, because he had a couple other shows. There was the Osbournes Reloaded, which was like a variety show. I think it was literally just one episode. They cut it quits. I remember watching it live when it was premiering, and even as a kid who loved Ozzy, just being like, this is dumb. I did like Ozzy and Jack's like big detour road trip show. Like, it was just a show where Ozzy and Jack, now a full-grown adult, would just like drive an RV across the states and just like do like little road trips, you know? Like, there was something like just like genuinely kind of sweet and wholesome about just the two of them just being like normal fucking people doing normal father-son kind of crap, being like, oh, today we're driving to this hot spring in fucking Colorado or wherever the fuck, or oh, we're in Washington and we're gonna go to this museum or whatever the fuck, you know? I don't know, I found it touching. Corny, sure, but whatever. I'm pretty sure I dressed up as Ozzy for Halloween one year, too. I just can't remember when. It wouldn't have been any time recently, because the last couple of years I've just thrown on the fucking skeleton onesie, and then Anna and I have gone fucking drinking and dancing and partying in the fucking village. So, whatever. I don't know. Want to do Ozzy and Sharon for Halloween this year?
Yes,
that might be fun.
It'd be so easy.
It'd be fun as hell.
I just need a red wig. Like, I literally have everything else.
I honestly, it wouldn't shock me if you told me you already had the red wig too. Wouldn't shock me. Honest to fucking God. I don't have to do shit. I just throw on a trench coat and some glasses and I act like a fucking idiot all night. Boom. Done.
Yes.
I'm already very good at acting like an idiot. I don't even need to do the Ozzy voice to be an idiot, as longtime Metal Meltdown viewers will know. The more I think about it, the more I realize that Ozzy Osbourne in some capacity has always been a part of my life, before I even listened to rock and metal music. And even though I will continue to argue that it's a good thing that Ozzy is retiring, and quite frankly, this is long overdue, I concede it still feels weird. I don't know if it feels sad per se, but weird and maybe a little bittersweet. And I think that that's a shared feeling. At bare minimum, it sure as shit would explain a lot of the comments that I've read and seen and received in the past as a byproduct of talking about Ozzy Osbourne needing to retire, me wanting him to retire. I think that people struggle with change. I think that people struggle with the concept of growing old and acknowledging that Ozzy Osbourne is old and should retiring and now is. I think that that triggers something in people. I think that it just kind of like, it forces them to confront the fact that nothing in life is permanent and things have to change and everyone and everything grows old. That's just how it is. It's not always easy to say goodbye, and Lord knows if the party's good, you don't necessarily want to leave. That doesn't change the fact that the party has come to an end, and it's time to say goodbye. So thank you very much, Ozzy Osbourne, for the fantastic parties, for creating a lifetime of music and art and culture that will resonate and influence and inspire and entertain for years and years and years and years to come. Cheers. I love you. Thank you. Have a great day. All right.
Hi, Zoe.
Hi. I hope you all share your Ozzy Osbourne related stories in the comments below or on Discord. I hope you just have a great day. 'Cause I love you and you're doing great. Boom, subscribe, boom other videos, join us on Discord. I like how Anna thought the video was over and just wanted to... Hi! She's a little goofed up. I'm a little goofed up too. Goodbye, everyone. And thank you again, Ozzy. But please stay retired. Please. 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 Okay, bye.